There are 4 dogs on my farm, and not one of them has ever eaten a piece of kibble in her life. The oldest is 13 years old. Her teeth are white, her coat shines like a wet chestnut, and my vet bill for all 4 dogs last year came to $38. Most folks think feeding a dog without store food is risky and complicated, so let me ask you something before we start. What do you suppose every dog in this country ate for the 200 years before kibble was invented? It is 5:30 in the morning, and I am standing at the back door of the summer kitchen with a dented steel pail in my hand. Inside that pail, there are 2 raw chicken backs from Tuesday's butchering, 1 cracked egg the hens stepped on, a ladle of cooked oats from the bottom of the breakfast pot, and a spoonful of the pumpkin my mother put up last fall. That pail cost me nothing, not 1 cent. It is the part of the farm that was going to be thrown away, and it is breakfast for a 60-pound farm dog named Bess, who has not been sick a day in 9 years. Now let me tell you about the time I did it the other way, because I was not always this smart. 6 years ago, an English neighbor moved to the city and left us his dog. A good dog, a shepherd cross named Duke, and he came with a 40-pound bag of the store food, the brown pellets, $80 a bag where we live. The neighbor said that is what Duke eats, so that is what we fed him. Within a month, Duke was scratching himself raw behind the ears. His coat went dull. His droppings were the size of the food bowl itself, twice a day, and they did not break down in the yard the way a dog's droppings should. My father looked at that dog scratching himself against the fence post and said something I have never forgotten. He said, "The dog is telling you the food is wrong. You just have to be humble enough to listen." I turned that bag around and read the small print on the back, out loud, standing in the barn, and I could not pronounce half of what was written there. Quick word before I go further. The old methods my family uses, there is more of it than fits in any one video. I gathered the whole of it into a book you can buy in our pinned comment below. The book is the long version. If you want it, it is there. I will not mention it again. So we listened to Duke. We took him off the pellets over the course of 1 week and put him on the pail, the same pail every farm dog in my family has eaten from for 4 generations. The scratching stopped in 3 weeks. The coat came back in 6. And the droppings, I know this is not polite supper conversation, but it matters, and I will tell you why later. The droppings shrank to half the size and firmed right up. That was the last bag of kibble ever to cross our fence line. Now here's the question that should be nagging at you the way it nagged at me. If a pail of farm scraps fixed that dog in 6 weeks, what exactly was in the $80 bag that broke him in 4? Because I went and found out, and once you know what I know, you will never look at that brown pellet the same way again. Let me start with a date. 1956. That is the year the extruded kibble pellet was invented, cooked under pressure, and shot through a machine like puffed cereal. That is not old wisdom. That is younger than my grandfather. For the 10,000 years before that, dogs ate what the family ate. The trimmings, the bones, the eggs, the leftover porridge, the parts of the animal the people did not want. Dogs did not merely survive on that. Dogs were built on that. The dog is a scavenger by design. Her stomach sits at an acid strength near battery water, strong enough to soften raw bone and kill most of what would sicken you or me. Her jaw is a set of shears made for cracking and tearing, not for grinding grain. Her whole body is a machine that was tuned, over thousands of years at the edge of the human fire, to run on exactly one fuel: leftovers. And then, inside a single lifetime, we handed her a bag of puffed corn pellets and told ourselves it was science. It was not science. It was shipping. A pellet does not spoil in a warehouse. A pellet stacks on a truck. A pellet has a margin. The pellet was invented for the store shelf, not for the dog. And everything about it makes sense the moment you understand who it was really designed to feed. And here is what most folks get wrong, right at the root of it. They think dog food is a product you must buy, like a medicine, mixed by scientists, too complicated to make at home. Friend, look at the side of the bag. The first ingredient on many of the cheap bags is corn. A dog has no more need of corn than a cat has need of a hymnal. The meat in the bag is often something called meal, which is what is left after the good cuts are rendered away, cooked at high heat until most of the life is out of it, then sprayed with fat so the dog will accept it. Then they add the vitamins back in with a powder, because the cooking destroyed the ones that were there. Think about that. They cook the food to death and then sprinkle the nutrition back on top like salt, and you pay $80 for it. Now hold that against the other side of the scale. A laying hen dies of old age. A steer is butchered in November. The garden makes more squash than the family can eat. The breakfast pot has oats stuck to the bottom. On an English lot in town, it is a smaller version of the same thing. The chicken quarters on sale for 69 cents a pound, the eggs, the rice, the pot of leftover vegetables. One side of the scale costs $80 a bag and gave Duke a skin rash. The other side costs next to nothing because most of it was headed for the compost pile. So here is the counterintuitive truth, the one that reframes the whole business. Feeding a dog is not a buying problem. It is a waste problem. A household that cooks its own food already produces most of what a dog needs to eat. The pet food company did not invent dog food. They invented a way to sell you the scraps of the meat industry, dried into a pellet, at 100 times the price of the scraps sitting in your own kitchen. You do not need to start buying dog food. You need to stop throwing dog food away. Now, I can hear the worry from here. Raw bones, table scraps, is that not dangerous? Some of it is. And I am going to be straight with you about exactly which parts, because the difference between the safe way and the foolish way is about 5 rules, and my family has kept those rules for 100 years. Let me walk you through the pail, one layer at a time. The first layer, and the biggest, is what I call the butcher's share. Roughly half of everything the dog eats should be raw meat on raw bone. On our farm, that is chicken backs and necks from butchering day. In town, that is chicken leg quarters on sale. Or you walk into a real butcher shop, not the grocery counter, a real butcher, and you ask what he does with his chicken backs, necks, and trim. Most butchers will sell you a box for 50 cents a pound. Some will give it away just to be rid of it. Here is the rule you must never break, and I want you to hear it twice. Raw bone bends and crumbles. Cooked bone splinters. A raw chicken back is soft enough that Bess crunches through it like a carrot. That same bone, roasted, turns hard and sharp and can cut a dog inside. Raw, always raw. Say it to yourself until it sounds like your own voice. Never cooked bone, not once, not ever, and no dense weight-bearing leg bones from big steers either. Those are for gnawing on outside, not for swallowing. And here is the trick worth rewinding for. That raw bone is the reason my 13-year-old dog has white teeth. The crunching scrapes her teeth clean every single morning. The English pay their vet $300 to put the dog under and scrape her teeth. My dogs pay for it themselves at breakfast and enjoy the work. The second layer is the egg and the shell. 3 or 4 eggs a week for a farm-sized dog, cracked right over the pail, and here's the part most folks throw away. Dry the shells on the windowsill. Crush them fine with the bottom of a jar and keep the powder in an old jam tin. Half a teaspoon of that powder on any meal that has meat but no bone. That is calcium, the same thing the feed store sells in a supplement bottle for $12, and your hens make it for free. The third layer is the organ rule, and this is where the real feeding is done. About 1 part in 10 of the dog's food should be organ meat, and half of that should be liver. Liver, kidney, heart, the parts the butcher nearly pays you to take. Liver is the richest food on the whole farm, so rich that the rule has a warning built in. A little is medicine, a lot is trouble. Too much liver loosens the bowels and over time gives the dog more vitamin A than she needs. 1 part in 20, no more. My grandfather said feed liver like you spend money, a little at a time and never all at once. The fourth layer is the pot on the back of the stove. This is the cooked layer, maybe a quarter of the pail. Oats or rice cooked soft, and vegetables cooked soft. Carrots, green beans, squash, and always a spoonful of plain cooked pumpkin, because pumpkin settles a dog's stomach coming and going. And that is all I will say about that in polite company. What never goes in the pot, and you must write this on the wall of your mind. No onions, no garlic in any real amount. No grapes and no raisins. They can shut down a dog's kidneys, even a small handful. No chocolate, no corn cobs, no moldy anything. If you would not smell it and eat it yourself, it goes to the compost, not the dog. The fifth layer comes from a can, and it is the one store item I will put my name behind. Sardines. Plain sardines packed in water, not oil, not sauce. 2 or 3 little fish twice a week, about $1 a can. That is the fish oil the pet stores sell for $25 a bottle, except it is still inside the fish where it keeps best. That is the whole pail. Half raw meat and bone, a 10th organ, eggs and their shells, the soft pot, the sardines. For a 60-pound dog that works out to around 1.5 pounds of food a day, a touch more in winter when she works, a touch less in July when she mostly lies under the porch. Switch a dog over slow, 1 week, a little more pale, and a little less pellet each day, and her stomach will follow you without complaint. Total cost for my 4 dogs, if I had to buy every piece of it in town at sale prices, about $40 a month. All 4, together. Now let me pull the camera back because the pail is not really the point. The point is what the pail is attached to. More than half the dogs in this country are overweight. That is not my opinion. That is what the veterinary surveys keep finding, year after year, and it is no mystery why. The pellet is near half starch, and the scoop is bottomless, and the dog is bored. Fat dogs get bad hips, bad hearts, and sugar trouble, and every one of those troubles arrives with a bill stapled to it. The English families around us tell me what they spend. $80 to $100 a month on the bag. A dental cleaning under anesthesia, $300 to $500, skin trouble, allergy visits, the special prescription bags at $120 each. One family down the road told me their dog costs them more each month than their propane. And the pet food business takes in more than $50 billion a year in this country. And still, every year or two, there is another recall in the news. Another batch of pellets pulled off the shelves for something that should never have been in there. Meanwhile, Bess eats what the farm was going to waste. Her teeth clean themselves. Her weight has not moved a pound in 9 years. And the vet sees her once a year for her shots and tells me the same thing every time. Whatever you are doing, keep doing it. I want to be fair and careful here because a dog is not a place for pride. If your dog is old or sick or expecting pups, you talk to your vet before you change one thing. And a good vet will not laugh at the pail. The good ones know this history better than anyone. And you keep the rules. Raw bone never cooked, liver little and steady. The never list is the never list. This is not carelessness dressed up as tradition. It is a system, and the rules are the fence around it. My grandmother had a saying about this, and it lands like the point of the whole matter, so I will give it to you the way she gave it to me while she scraped the breakfast pot into the dog pail. The store sells food for dogs in general, she said, but you are not feeding dogs in general. You are feeding your dog. A dog is not a customer. She is a member of the farm, and the farm feeds its own. That is the whole teaching in 2 sentences. Nobody who is selling you something by the ton can know your dog the way you do. Standing over her bowl every morning, watching her coat, her weight, her eyes, her droppings. That watching is the real feed. The pail is just how it gets delivered. And the watching teaches you fast. Within 2 weeks of the pail, you will notice the droppings shrink to half their size because the dog is finally using most of what she eats instead of passing the filler straight through. You will notice she drinks less water because raw food is mostly water already, near 70 parts in 100, where the pellet is dry as sawdust and leaves her parched. You will notice she stops the frantic gulping because crunching through a chicken back takes work and time, and the work satisfies something in her that a scoop of pellets never touched. She will sleep deeper. Her breath will lose that sour pellet smell. These are not miracles. They are just what a dog looks like when the food matches the animal. My father says you can read a farm dog's supper in her coat, the way you can read a field's soil in its corn, and he has never once been wrong about either. So here's what I want you to do tonight, before you decide anything. Go to wherever the bag is kept and read the first 5 ingredients out loud. If you have to sound the words out, that is your answer right there. Then crack 1 plain egg over the dog's supper. No shell tonight, just the egg, and watch her face while she eats it. That is the beginning. That is the whole first step, and it costs about 20 cents. Then come down to the comments and tell me 2 things. What the first ingredient on your bag was, and what the dog did when the egg hit the bowl. I read every one of these, usually by lamplight, and I answer what I can. The folks in my community already know all of this. I'm telling it for the folks outside who were never told. Next time I'm going to show you what my grandmother kept on the shelf above the wash basin for keeping fleas off every dog on this farm, without a drop of the spot medicine, a wooden comb, a bar of yellow soap that costs $2, and 1 herb from the garden that fleas cannot abide. It worked for 100 years before the flea companies existed, and it still works today. Until then, feed them like family. Watch them like family. And remember that the people who built this country with their hands fed their dogs from the table scraps. And those dogs lived long enough to help raise the children. The old ways are not gone. They are just waiting in the pail.